You are listening to the Disney Dream Girls, an unofficial Disney theme parks podcast. And this is show number 559 for Sunday, the 10th of August, 2025.
Where dreams begin.
Hello and welcome to this week's Disney Dream Girls. My name is Michelle Young, and together with my jolly good chum Jane Phipps, we are your guides to the place where dreams begin. Hello there, Jane.
Hello there, Michelle, and how are we doing this fine week? We actually saw each other in person, did we not?
It was lovely. The
Yeah.
weather held out perfectly. We had a nice walk, and we eventually got to show you around one of our most amazing things nearby, a repurposed old mill.
Absolutely beautiful building and lots of lovely artwork and yeah, could have spent lots of money on different bits and pieces. Some of which was very expensive, but it was just beautifully curated and a really nice space to walk around and enjoy your company as well.
It was a lovely day, and we were blessed by the weather, despite us both toting our umbrellas.
Yeah, I think we adopted the make sure we've got a brolly with us and then it won't rain. And actually, the philosophy worked.
And that's an adage going into a Walt Disney World trip, particularly during the summer months, because we all know you're going to get rain. And it's quite ironic and funny that we both said the same thing. That if you go out to one of the Disney theme parks and you're all prepped, you've got your poncho, you've got your umbrella, you've got your raincoat, whatever, you know it's not going to rain. And that one day you leave it behind in your room, what's going to happen, Jane?
It will rain.
And
I have
yeah,
many stories. I have going to the Magic Kingdom on I think our very first day of one trip, and it had been beautiful all day, and then the heavens opened towards the evening, and I was wearing some beautiful red trainers. Let's just say that the red dye didn't stay on the trainers.
yeah. Oh, bless.
Yeah.
I remember taking shelter in the Canada Pavilion one trip, and this lovely cast member. It was back in the days when you could ship your purchases to your
Oh.
resort. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, Michelle, yes.
And we'd bought a nightgown or something from Canada. I'm sure it was a nightgown with a bear on the front, and it was really super cute. And we'd arranged through this cast member, and she was so sweet. She'd given us both a pair of ponchos, so that I don't think ponchos come in pairs, but she'd given us both a poncho. And when we got back to the resort 2 days later, we got the parcel and opened it up, and she'd written a beautiful little note saying that she was so happy that she was able to turn around our soggy, rainy hideaway into something. And she'd put some Disney glitter in there and some
Hmm.
stickers, and it's just those little random bits of Disney pixie dust that turn around a day to a memory. And it really upsets me a little bit when I see on the social media groups, it's my birthday, what do I get? And I don't think
Yeah.
people are in the mindset of understanding that pixie dust is not anticipated, it's not expected, it's not demanded. It happens spontaneously, either from guest to guest or the cast member to the guest, just to do a surprise. It doesn't need acknowledgement. It doesn't need anything other than the fact that someone has done something nice. And it could be as silly as, I don't know, one time I was in Disneyland and I got a little plastic golden coin off the janitorial staff just for saying, hello, how you doing? And it's those things, whereas people going in thinking, hang on a minute, I'm wearing my birthday button. Why have I not got a free dessert? Why have I not got to the front of the line? That's not what it's about.
No, and actually, I always think it's that element of like if you put love out there, you'll get love back. And I think sometimes um, you get these rewards, that's maybe the wrong word, but these little moments that happen because actually you've put something good out into the world and it's been responded to in that way. So yeah, it's don't go looking for it and it will find you. I think probably the best way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah. However, don't do what Michelle says.
What's that?
Don't go on your Facebook cruise group and post a picture saying, "Hey, I've knitted these lovely little cute little Disney dolls. I've got a picture here of 20 of them, and I'd like to pixie dust them to people during the cruise. However, I don't want to leave them around the ship, and I don't want to give them out to people as I see them, because I want them to be treasured by someone. So if you
Hmm.
would like one, please send me a direct message with your room number and whether you have boy or girl." Don't do that.
Because you get inundated, Michelle, don't you?
It is now 10 days later from that post, and I am at the moment counting 135
Oh, wow.
different requests from people. Now, some people were really super lovely, sent me the direct message, as was requested in the initial thing, saying, "Oh, they are gorgeous, they are lovely. Yes, here's our details." Some people just commented on the post, "Girl 7, boy 5, cabin number, blah, blah." And it's like, where's your manners, love?
I'm going to say it's entering into the correct spirit of it. I mean, we had it, we did some pixie dusting on our first cruise, and Molly, my daughter, who has her own little crafty business, Shutter Studios, I'll just get that in there. She decided that she'd do some stickers for us, and I put exactly the same post out. Um, but stickers were easy. It was quick and it was easy to print off. And Molly, bless her, used up all her stock, and we had loads. And we had a few left over, and we were even, so we were able to go and pick stuff to all those that had commented and have a few left over. But for you, Michelle, this is something you're physically having to make. It's like how fast do they think your fingers can actually work to get all of these produced? It's
I
like
know.
I
And the
think I
sin,
think it's number and a hat job. Big hat, lots of numbers, and pull out, and those that are lucky get it.
yeah, because like the Cinderella ones, they're so fiddly with the bun on the top for a hair, the headband, and everything. They take about 8 hours to make.
Yeah.
And I had people messaging, "Oh yeah, and we've got 3, 4 children. We're in connecting rooms. Can we have this? Can we have the other?" And it's like, yeah,
No.
I'm regretting that post now. So I've now gone through the list, and I have a list of people that are going to be pixie dusted, and then I've said I'm going to put some on my room door in a little Ziploc bag with a magnet. Please feel free to come by and check my room door and see if I've put any about. And then I'm going to have some on my person. So if you see me on the ship, come and have a chat with me. I may or may not have a doll with me to give you, but it would be really nice to meet you.
Hmm.
Um, I'm now at the process where last night I didn't go to bed till 1:15 because I was determined to do 2 pirates last night, and I've just gave myself a talking to this morning and saying, "You stop trying to kill yourself. You've
Yeah,
got about 45 of these now done.
which is
You,
more than enough.
and where are you going to put them in your case? Because you actually need to take some clothes with you." So, yeah, Michelle has learnt a lesson. Stop trying to be nice. And yeah, anyway, we've got a podcast to do
Anyway,
before
yes,
Michelle
yes, let's
digressed,
go.
talking
Let's get
about
on. Yes.
the woes of a podcaster who makes a very stupid mistake by posting something on a Facebook group for her cruise. However, I have gone through other things in my Disney collection that I'm trying to sort of pixie dust some of them. So I've got some pins and bits and pieces, and I've done the old Marie Kondo route of thinking, well, it's not bringing me joy, but it might bring somebody else joy.
Yeah, spread the
So
love.
I've got a nice little pixie dust pile. I've got some stickers. So yeah, that's the plan. Anyway, we were having a conversation and we found it quite interesting about Disney memories
Mm,
of Disney attractions going back in time that
mm.
we love, adore, and miss. And we've come up with our own lists. Now, I've no idea what Jane has got on her list. She's no idea what I've got on my list. So it's going to be really interesting
Mm.
that either of us have the same things, because I know, Jane, your history with Disney goes back historically quite a long way, whereas mine's a
Yeah.
lot more recent. So, yeah, so let's see what you've got as your number one thing from the
Oh,
past you
well,
miss.
I don't know whether these are number in any particular order, I have to say, because when we started talking about this, I literally did not think. I just wrote a list. So this is a very sort of guttural reaction, shall we say,
Mhm.
to this. Um, and yeah, so bear in mind, my first visit was in 1991. So can I put two together?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, yeah, what goes today, eh? So, it's probably going to be fairly obvious that the first one that came to mind was Mr. Toad's Wild Ride.
Oh.
And with Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, I'm going to include 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea as well, which I have told this story numerous times before. And the reason I have to like link them two together is because they were kind of opposite each other originally in the Magic Kingdom in Fantasyland. And
Hmm.
my one memory is of, well, anybody that knows me knows that I love all the old school dark rides,
Hmm.
so anything old school, I'm there for. So Mr. Toad fitted all of that sort of vibe for me. And then we went back a couple of years after our very first visit with my brother and my mum and dad. And my brother, being about 19 or so at the time, was of the, well, I'm not going on that. That's not cool. It's a bit twee and a bit silly. Me, Simon, mum and dad went on it, had a big giggle going round Mr. Toad, and we left my brother Glenn sat on a rock outside 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Hence, I have to mention them both in the same breath. And he just sat there like a nincompoop, shall we say? And he was rather hot because it was July in Orlando, and
Hmm.
my brother's very fair skinned. He was sat out in full sun for, I don't know, 40 minutes or so. You can imagine the state of him, can't you, really? And
Oh,
he was
bless.
quite annoyed at us, and we just laughed at him because it was like, well, A, you didn't have to sit there. B, you could have found somewhere in the shade. C, you could have gone and done something else, had something to eat, gone in a shop, gone on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. So, yeah, combination of I miss those old school rides when they disappear, and obviously this one particularly has that sort of quirky, funny memory for me. So, Mr. Toad with a slight dash of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Mine is going back to the days when you had old school Epcot, and in Epcot, there was an attraction that I absolutely adored, and the aim of it was to encourage the teens to engage with maths in a way that they can use their knowledge of maths to
Mm-hmm.
create a roller coaster. And it was sponsored by Raytheon. And there's so many people now, I imagine, said, "Oh my word, I remember the sum of all thrills,"
Yeah.
because there was these little portals where you had this design studio where you created your own roller coaster, and there was like the drawing tools and everything to make it, and then it got programmed into one of four Kuka
Mm.
pods that you would actually sit in and play your virtual roller coaster that you'd done. It was like a 4D robotic simulator. And you got 1.5 minutes of being, if you're like me, making the most violent ride ever. And you'd be shaken like a gelato. I don't know. It was so much fun. And when I was in the clear out of the study, I still actually have the little plastic cards you were handed, because
Mm.
when you went home, you could go to the website and put in your unique code to relive that experience as well. And it was all about angles and
Mm.
forces. And that to me screams old Epcot,
Well,
because it was
absolutely.
all about the edutainment. And it puzzled me at the time when I rode on it that it wasn't as popular as it should have been, because it was such a fun thing. Okay, you had to be over 48 inches to ride it, two riders per vehicle. So the turnover was quite slow,
Mm.
and it was in an operation from 2009 to 2016. Anyone else got any fun Sum of All Thrill stories you'd like to share with us?
Mhm.
Let us know.
Oh yeah, and I mean, and just going on from that whole area, that it was two interventions, wasn't it? It was,
Mm,
I mean, I remember going back in, say, the early 90s, and there being a whole area to do with fitness, etc., and using kinetic power. And I've got video of both Simon and my brother on these laid back bike things, desperately trying to get up to a certain speed. It was that era of hands on
Mm.
exploratory displays. It was that classic edutainment sort of vibe. And I do kind of miss all that. And I know part of the reason why it's gone is because it's not an IP and it's not drawing people in that respect. But also, technology moved along so quickly
Mm.
that it's become harder and harder to be that prototype community of tomorrow, because tomorrow is only kind of literally a few seconds away now, isn't it? We're seeing things progress so quickly that it's hard now to predict what is going to happen. But I remember being in that area and doing email for the first time.
Yeah.
And you were actually able to send an email, a photo email home, which was like just, yeah, it sounds so bizarre now, but it was, I remember doing it with the kids. So I'm thinking that must have been 2004-ish, I want to say. So, yeah, how
Mm.
times have changed.
Yeah. Because I remember going to Spaceship Earth and emailing my journey back
Yes.
home, and you could see it on the big map of the email actually traveling home.
Yeah,
And it was so cutting edge on my first trip in 2010. Now it's like, really?
yeah, I know.
Okay. Have you another one, Jane?
Well, I could just stay in Epcot and just talk about all the old school pavilions, couldn't I? But I will. Can I? I'll give a couple of mentions out to things that I used to like to go and do. One was Kitchen Cabaret over at the Land Pavilion, a little
Mm.
musical show about food and good foods and food groups and one thing and another with little animatronic characters. And then over at Wonders of Life, there was Cranium Command, which was again, it was like, I suppose, a little bit like Inside Out, that element of like, you know, being inside a teenager's head almost and navigating the world. Again, it's proper old school, it's proper Epcot and edutainment. And yeah, I just have lots of quirky memories of those two types of attractions. And, I do lament the passing of things like, World of Motion and Horizons. And we'll give an honorable mention to Maelstrom, because I used to love going on Maelstrom, and it really annoyed me that it only got popular when they said they were going to take it away. And it's like, if you'd have been using it beforehand, they wouldn't be thinking of taking it away. Although it always used
Mm.
to make me laugh. You do Maelstrom and you get to the bit at the end where you'd got the tourist board movie of Norway, and I don't think I ever sat and watched it once. Everybody would just like stream through the little cinema because people weren't bothered about. We just heard about Norway. We had to troll. We weren't bothered about watching what they produce. It was yeah, always used to make me smile. But so yeah, a little bit of old school Epcot. And actually, I suppose, sorry, I'm going on now, aren't I? But if we're going to talk old school Epcot, I've got to mention the original Figment and the original
Mm.
Figment meet and greet with Dreamfinder. You can't mention Epcot without that. And it's like, yeah, come on, get imagination back to old school. A lot of us would be very happy.
Yeah, they would.
Sorry, I've waffled on too much about Epcot. What's next, Shell?
It's okay. Well, actually, while you're still on the old Epcot, the Wonders of Life Pavilion.
Mm, yeah, just
Now,
in its entirety.
I don't recall Cranium Command or anything like that, but I
Mm.
do recall that between 2007 and 2018, the space was used as the festival centre for Epcot's events such as Food and Wine.
Oh,
And
okay.
I remember, I think it was the last year in 2018, I had pre-booked us on one of those talks that they held in the festival centre, and it was with a budding bakery chef called
Mm.
Valerie, and she was working over at Golden Oak at the time, and it was a session on bagel making.
Ooh.
And it was amazing, and it was so fun as she was making through the bagels. And at the end, I went over and said hello to her and had a little chat, swapped each other's Instagram. To
Mm.
this day, I'm still in touch with her, and I intend to meet up with her when I go
Oh,
there. So that just yeah, so yeah, my slight digression on Epcot. But while I'm talking about bagels, I want to talk about food, of course.
Of course, yeah.
One of my fondest memories was going into Dinoland USA and going to the Dinobite Snack Shack and
Right.
getting a raisin oatmeal cookie, because back in the day, raisin oatmeal cookies were not a thing that we'd have in the UK.
No, no.
And I used to love going there because the cookies would be warm and you'd have a vanilla ice cream cookie sandwich. And these things were huge and they were about $4.50 back in the day. And it was a highlight of going to Animal Kingdom, knowing I'd be getting this illicit cookie that was not heard of in the UK with a vanilla sandwich type thing going on. Now, I
Yeah.
do know Dinoland USA is under its warning orders, but you are still able to go and get a cookie ice cream sandwich. However, as we speak right now, they've taken the raisin oatmeal off the menu and they only do it with a chocolate chip one,
Mm.
and the price is $8.29. However, they do have a strawberry shortcake ice cream sandwich, which is a strawberry crumble baked sugar cookie with strawberry ice cream, and then it's dipped in strawberry crumble. Now that is $8.79, which is a lot of money, but I'm gonna have to go there and try it out for old time's sake this trip.
Well, I think it would only be right to, wouldn't it? I must admit, I was craving a raisin oatmeal um, cookie when we were there earlier on the year, and could I find a raisin oatmeal cookie? No, and not. It's just like it's just plain and simple, and obviously plain and simple doesn't seem to cut it anymore. So
Yeah, they were
there you go.
darn good cookies, Jane.
Definitely.
Where we're heading next with you then?
Or where should we go next, Michelle? Well, let's go back to Magic Kingdom,
Okay.
and I'm going to mention the Skyway between Tomorrowland and Fantasyland because I used to love riding that, if only for the fact that Simon wasn't very keen on it. So that was quite funny. But it was just great to be up there and it was so peaceful and you could see all the tops of the buildings and just one of those little ride things that would take you away from the hustle and bustle for just a couple of 3 minutes, a bit like, a quick ride on the TTA. But yeah, the Skyway that was there that is no more, and the Fantasyland station is now what is the Rapunzel bathrooms. So there
Mm.
you go.
But it's always nice to see the park from a different angle and a different
Mm.
perspective. And again, that's something I never got to experience. Well, I'm going to taking us to Disney's Hollywood Studios now.
Oh, okay.
And I've got three things from Hollywood Studios because for me, in my fandom, Hollywood Studios is probably the park that has had the most change. And it's still
Mm.
continuing to evolve and change
Absolutely.
because obviously the much lamented Muppets 3D has dispatched. But I'm going to take us back even a bit further to a particular attraction that I adored. It opened May the 1st, 1989, and it stood in statue all the way through to the 13th of August 2017. And there were two different versions you could get on the attraction. And yes, you're all screaming at me now. It is the Great Movie Ride.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's back of the era where Hollywood Studios was all about Hollywood and the films and the inspiration and the celebration of the great experience of how movies have evolved. And I absolutely adored this attraction. And it was always quite good fun to see which version I would get because there was the two different ones, if you remember, Jane, do you?
Vaguely.
Yeah, and I always sort of remembered that, and I still have to this day on my phone the little bit of Wizard of Oz, little scene when you go into Munchkin Land and the Wicked Witch came up. The fact that you had a real life person in your
Yeah,
vehicle that
yeah,
then interacted with the exhibits.
yeah.
So it could be the cowboy version, it could be the Indiana Jones, and it was such lovely little nods to it. And I know the building is still in place, and they have utilised it as part of Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. But I still think I loved the fact that we celebrated film, and I know through the time it had two sponsors. It had Coca-Cola
Mm-hmm.
and then Turner Classic Movies, which
Oh, yeah.
really didn't. Yeah, but yeah, I just loved it, and
Mm.
I do really miss it. And I still think to this day it could be something that the Imagineers go back to, and maybe they have it instead of the whole film experience. Maybe it's just a troll through the animation, because I know they're building that new animation area in Hollywood Studios as well, which is very much appreciated because I used to enjoy that as well.
Well, yeah.
So yeah.
And that kind of takes me on to like the old backstage tour that you would do. That was kind of, back in the day. I remember going to Hollywood Studios or MGM Studios as it was back then, and it was supposed to be all about emulating that movie studios. It was taking
Mm,
the old backlot tour from the likes of Universal and Hollywood particularly and trying to apply it. And obviously at the time there were things that had been filmed and were being filmed there. You got to drive past the Golden Girls house and things like that.
mm,
And I remember walking around the animation building that was and is coming back and seeing animators at work. Um, and that's what I kind of loved about Hollywood Studios, because it was that thing of let's take you behind the movies, let's take you into different sorts of sound stages, the Catastrophe Canyon, the water tank, all that sort of thing, and getting to see exhibits with props and just those little nuggets of information and storyboards and those types of things. And it's something that Simon and I really love. And we loved walking around Launch Bay this year because they've got all the replica models from different Star Wars movies. So that it kind of really floats our boats. We love the making of movies and all the skill and creativity that goes into creating these things. So for us, that kind of was the ethos of what MGM Studios back then was all about. And just as a little side note, I was saying to Simon about this, and he actually mentioned a shop that is still at the front of Hollywood Studios on your left as you walk in, and it used to be called Sid something. I want Sid Chahungas or some, I can't remember what it was called. But rather than being like a merchandise store like it is now, it was a store that used to sell old props and film memorabilia. And Simon remembers seeing they've actually got a disc from the original movie Tron. It was like a
mm.
plywood wooden disc thing. It wasn't anything special, but it was there on sale. And that's one of those things Simon now goes, oh, I wish I'd have bought that. Because back in the early 90s, we probably wouldn't have appreciated that Tron would have turned into this sort of cult following. And the fact that we've got a third movie coming out later this year, we've now got rides across the world for it. But yeah, there was just this lowly sort of wooden disc that was sitting there as an original prop from the movie, and it's like, oh, if only we could have foreseen into the future, and it would have been so cool to have picked up. But hey ho,
Yeah.
you don't know at the time, isn't it? And you can't get too hung up on it. But it's like, oh, that would have been nice to have had.
Sid Kahenga's shop. I do recall you could
Yeah,
go in
something
there
like
and
that.
get autographs and all
Yeah.
sorts of things. And
Oh, there was
yes,
movie posters. In fact, we've actually got. I'm sure you've seen it in our hallway, Michelle. It's actually not up at the moment because we've had a bit of a refit. But I have a wonderful. It's a wonderful life movie poster, and I am convinced we bought it from Hollywood Studios or MGM as it would
oh,
have been back then. Can't for the life of me figure out how we got it home. I find, and I want to say it was bought from there, but I may be completely wrong. I may be conflating memories. I'm an old girl now, so memories don't always kind of line up properly. But I'm convinced we bought it from Hollywood Studios, but I am baffled as to how we got it home.
mm. Well, it's funny you mentioned the studio backlot tour, because that was one on my list, because I do remember that big water tank, and it
Mm,
was to be reminiscent of Pearl Harbor, and they used to get people up from the audience as
Yeah.
well. Do you remember? And
Yeah.
you did the
Yeah.
walking tour element and then
Yeah.
Catastrophe Canyon, and
Yeah.
you could go through the back lot and look at all of the exhibits. I loved that. And I know that there is a version esque, no longer as it used to be, but it's now themed around cars in Disneyland Paris. But things like that, yeah, I lament and miss. And while we're talking about lamenting and missing, I've got one that I never really experienced,
Oh, okay.
and I regret never experiencing. And I
Right.
don't know why I do know why. It's because I never went at Christmas at the time to Walt Disney World, because
Okay.
this is the spectacle of the dancing lights, the Osborne
Ah,
family.
yeah.
And, for me, and this is quite timely with the sad loss to the world of music of Ozzy Osbourne, but I always used to think it was his family lights until I understood the whole backstory of it actually being from Jennings Osborne and his wife Mitzi and the family
Yeah.
putting together. They're donating their lights of why they, and there's a whole show we've done in the past with the
Yeah.
lovely Jim Carcass retelling the history of this. God rest you, Jim. Miss you so much, my lovely. And yeah, I never got to experience it.
No, me
And it's
neither.
a real kicker that I never did. But somewhere in a warehouse, there's all of these amazing lights, and it would be lovely that could be seeing some life again. And I really wish that I got to see that, because it made
Yeah.
everyone who's been a Disney fan over the eons, and they must have lovely memories of going to Hollywood Studios and seeing it so beautiful, lit up for the season. And yeah, bye bye, it went. Sad,
Mm,
sad, sad.
yeah.
And then my last one
Mm-hmm.
is again something I never got to experience.
Okay.
And I know we spoke about it umpteen times in the history of the show, but now it's gone. I kind of regret it, because I'd love everything about the Polynesian culture. And I don't think I'll ever have enough money to ever warrant a stay at the Polynesian. I
Mm.
don't think I'll ever have enough money to even be able to afford to go to Hawaii and look at the amazing dole plantation and look at the rich fertile soil they have there and explore the rich history with all of their volcanoes.
Mm.
So I could have maybe had a taste of Aloha with their dinner show. And
Ah, the luau.
yeah, and looking back at it now, I know at the time I was saying, oh, $78 is a lot of money. Well, if it was $78 now, I'd be like biting their hand off
Absolutely.
for, the delightful dishes that you got and the amazing entertainment that I now know I probably will never get to Hawaii. And I don't know, maybe if there is something I can do to try and find a hidden premium bond I never knew I had, and that's won me £1 million, so I can actually afford a 2-night stay at the Polynesian to be some sort of a consolation of never getting to Hawaii, but lament never being able to go, and it's never going to come back.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it? It was not something that ever appealed to me to go to the Luau show when it was up and running. I think just maybe the era, the age that I was, etc. Is maybe something that you grow into as you get older. I did actually go to where the Luau was held though, because one of
Mm.
the years that we arrived, I think it was 1996. We were staying at Port Orleans French Quarter, so that was our very first Disney Resort hotel stay, and we'd booked a package deal through Virgin Holidays. And this is back in the day when the holiday companies would have a welcome meeting, and they're where they would try and sell you different things, so tickets to other places, all that type of stuff. And
Yes.
the uh, Virgin Holiday meeting for people staying at Disney hotels was where the luau was. So I
Ah.
got to see it unused and be in the vicinity, but never actually go and see the luau show. And then if we're going to talk about shows, which I hadn't written on my list, but you've now made me think about it, we did Mickey's Backyard Barbecue. We did it twice, I want to say. It was held over at yeah, the campground at Fort Wilderness, and it was on the kind of you, you- close to the edge of the river. There was a big barn area that they got converted. After the barbecue, you could stay on the beach and see the electrical water pageant go by. It would have Mickey and Chip and Dale and Goofy, so the characters came out, and there was a guy called Dancing Dan, and he led the or taught us all how to line dance and had proper barbecue food, and it was such fun. And it would have been I think it was probably cheaper than the luau, but it would have been around about that sort of probably $49, $59 price mark, which we probably thought at the time was very extravagant. And crikey, now you'd be like slapping their hand off to do something like that. So yeah, Mickey's backyard barbecue. Oh, I used to love that. I
Oh,
even line dance, which is not me at all, but yeah.
well, listeners, I would love to hear from you about what you lament and miss the most. Did we include some of the places on our list that are on your list? Get in touch with us, info@disneydreamgirls.com. We can also be found on Instagram, where I will be sharing my upcoming trip, and that's at Diz Dream Girls. If you want to support the show financially, patreon.com/ Disney Dream Girls, where not only do you help keep the show up and running, but you also get the podcast earlier and exclusive podcasts just for you. And we, put a few offers out your way as a way of saying thank you for your support. But until next week, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.